Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Masks Off. I am Kim,
And I'm Tia.
and we're so glad that you are here with us today. So today we are going to talk about, are you hiding your light? So today's quote is, accept your light and let it shine to create your own lighthouse on a stormy night. Pauline Duncan Thrasher. I like that one.
I do
That's so
too.
poetic.
And I just love the image of the lighthouse
Me too.
because it's the calling yourself home. Shining your light, but you're also
Yes.
home.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to go like right to literally what I was sharing with you before we started recording, that I had a client yesterday. I was working with a woman, and it was literally about the fact that she was unable to shine her light. And, she was, as a child, dimmed by her parents. I mean, no autonomy at all. So that's one place where it begins and I've done it. Listen, I'm going to own it, claim it. I have been controlling as a parent as well. And so this client, she just wasn't allowed to do anything. She wasn't allowed to go with friends. She wasn't allowed to hang out. She wasn't even allowed to participate in different contests or things at school. And when she won certain contests, she didn't even show or share with her parents that she had won these things because she wasn't allowed to.
Wow.
So
really, really dimmed down. She wasn't
very
allowed
dimmed
to
down.
even be who she was she?
Not at all. She wasn't allowed to hang out with friends. She wasn't allowed. She completely had to do everything her parents told her to do. She had no autonomy at all.
Just be obedient.
Just be obedient. Just be compliant. And that's where it begins, right? Because we talked about this before. We all come into the world as babies, just knowing our inherent worth and value. And a baby is not concerned whether or not it has throw up all over it, poop running up the back,
Screaming for an hour.
Screaming for an hour, like red face, food all over. They just don't care about that stuff. They're just being themselves.
Right. And they're fully present while they're being themselves.
Fully present. Right. So I know we have talked about this before in episodes where as time goes on and the conditioning and, being told what to do, and so just
All
covers,
the masks.
all the masks start layering upon, and little by little, that's how we dim our lights more and more.
Yep. Oh,
yeah. I know. It
really makes you sad.
It is sad. It is. And so the beautiful thing with this client was that during the session, she was able to go back and identify that she felt this way as a 10-year-old, even as a 4-year-old. She remembered when she was 4 or 5 that she had a brother that was younger, 3-4 years younger than her. So when the baby was born, and the parents started to pay more attention to the newborn than her, even that was a sense of, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not important enough, I'm not valuable enough, because now who's paying attention to me? I'm not seen. I'm not being seen. My needs, my value, my needs, my wants, my desires are not important because this newborn baby is here. I remember Ryan being that way when Angela was born.
And it makes sense when you think about it, and what a sad thing. I mean, there's certain situations that parents, I mean, you can't do anything.
You do the best you can do in a situation.
Right. But knowing that moving forward, I mean, I never had that experience because I had twins, right? So I was needed by 2 at the same time.
Yeah.
They didn't know what life was like without each other.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what life was like without either, having a singleton. But it just makes you remember, and, working with clients when they have a new baby, it's always like, make sure you carve out time every day where it's just you and your firstborn, or, or your first and your second, however many kids are before them. Because it's really important, because all of a sudden they go from center of the world to no longer. And it's really hard. And that she could pull up that memory in your session.
Yes.
Is incredible. incredible to me.
Yes. Yeah, she was 4 years old, and she remembers just being kind of like on the outside looking in. Like she was literally outside and she felt like she couldn't get in the house, and she was feeling like mom was just paying attention to the baby, and she just
Mm,
felt so unwanted, so unimportant, not seen. Like she just wanted to be with her mom and mom wasn't there.
yeah.
I know it is hard. And I'm thinking again back to Ryan. So when I had Angela, they are 3 years apart.
Okay.
And I was really sick when I had Angela. I had, what did I have? Pre-eclampsia.
Mm-hmm.
my I hemorrhaged
Oh,
in the hospital postpartum, 2 weeks postpartum, hemorrhaged again, went back in the hospital. I mean, I was on bed
wow.
rest for 13 weeks after delivering her. And so for 13 weeks after delivering, so I
With
had,
two babies, we're one baby and a 3-year-old.
yeah. And I did have like a babysitter helping with Angela, but Ryan was only 3 years old, and
Mm-hmm.
I was just on the bed or on the couch all the time. And like you
Yeah.
said, just not really giving him the time that he needed. Or, I
But
was
how
just,
would you have had the ability to if
right.
you were healing I mean, you
Yeah.
were physically healing, never
Right.
mind the emotional healing that we have after giving birth.
Right. And it didn't even occur to me though either
Yeah.
to this poor little child might be going through something, because I didn't have the awareness then that I have now. So
Right. And so
I
you have
was,
compassion for yourself now, don't you? For
yes,
that moment
yes,
instead
yes,
of
because I was
beating
just,
yourself up.
yeah, just existing. I was just surviving and just getting through the day to day of how
Yep.
am I managing this.
Right.
So, but can see where easily it can be interpreted that my needs are not worthy, right? My needs are
Starts.
not worthy. So
Yeah.
that's where it becomes this accept your light and let it shine to create your own lighthouse. If you have this sense of, I'm not worthy, and that's what it boils down to
Mm-hmm.
when you go underneath, I'm not worthy. Well, it's going to be pretty darn hard at that point to shine your light.
Right. Because not that even that you're not worthy and, her mom wasn't available for
Yep.
her or whatever other situations rose up. And it's like, so when I do try to shine my light and it's not met with being seen and being heard, oh, I'm going to go back in because it's more painful. Not it's that it's continuing to reinforce. And so why shine and be disappointed yet again? So I might as
Yes.
well just stay in the corner, be compliant, whatever her story was, and our listeners' stories, because I'm sure all of us
Yes.
can relate to this in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not to the extreme that she experienced, not being able to hang out with friends. I mean,
Yeah.
and even if it just makes you wonder, would she have even had the ability to put herself out there to make friends should she have been allowed to? Because that fear of rejection, fear of,
Right.
I mean, that must have run somewhat deep to
Somewhere.
what came up as well. And how brave of her, incredibly brave to face that, because that's
Yes.
painful stuff.
It is.
And for you to hold that
Yeah,
through the session.
it was amazing to see the transformation from the beginning of the session to the end, and just to see the healing that took place for her, because by the end she was able to realize that it was a story that she continued to tell into her 20s, 30s, 40s, and 40s. She's in her 40s. And that, I'm no longer that 4-year-old girl. I'm an
That's
adult
right.
now. I can let that story go. I can shine my light, and no one is going to tell me that I'm, don't be so bright, don't be so big. That's another big
Yeah.
area for people, right?
Oh, yeah.
Don't be so loud, especially girls. We
I
talk
was just
with
going
the
to say,
conditioning.
yeah.
Don't be so loud. Don't, be girls swearing, like,
Oh,
saying don't be that
right.
way.
Right. Be a lady, be ladylike, be
Yeah.
polite, don't talk out of
Yeah.
turn, don't interrupt, and all of those things. I mean, we're taught to
Be
just
seen and
be,
not heard.
right.
It was
Just be
another one.
quiet.
Just be quiet.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a big one. And then even still, I can remember times when I was in school, right? I would like to raise my hand and participate a lot,
Mm.
but if I gave the wrong answer, right?
Oh, that
Like
feeling in your
that
body.
feeling
Oh,
of, oh, I'm being so embarrassed and called out
right.
and singled out. It's like, okay, I don't want
Mhm.
the spotlight on me anymore.
Mm-mm.
You
Mm-mm.
know, I'll be quiet now. Or even in sports, right?
Mm.
So soccer, like I played soccer, softball,
Right.
you know, if you strike out, how about striking out, you know, or
Oh,
any of
yeah.
that? I
Even
mean,
though
you have,
everyone's striking out all the time, when it happens to us
right,
individually, it's like,
right.
I just let my team down. Oh my
Yes.
goodness. Especially if you're the last out of the
I
of the
know.
inning and the bases are loaded.
Yes. Yes. And the feeling is, here's the thing, the feeling is that it only happens to me, right? I can kind of remember, like, I'm
Exactly.
the only one who's going to give the wrong answer.
Right.
I'm the only one who's going to strike out when the bases are loaded and we lose the game.
Right.
I'm the only one. And that's not true.
Mm-mm.
That's not true.
Everyone
And
does
we all make mistakes, right? And that's what Brene Brown talks about so much, about being imperfect and being okay with that.
that. Right. Right.
But
And
because we're all trying to be perfect, we won't shine our light.
exactly. That's what I was just going to say. It's like we only want to shine when everything is set up. Just so until then, we're going to hide until everything is exactly how we want it. But then we're not living.
Yes.
I mean, I've gone through that. Like the very first time I put up my website, um, and it's been through many iterations and is going to have another overhaul, which I've been talking about for several months.
Yes, I
And
can't
it's
wait
not
for
that I'm
that.
waiting for it to be perfection, because I just haven't had time to work on it.
Okay, I was going to ask
Yeah.
you, are you waiting for it to be perfect
No,
or
I
okay.
need to be able to carve out some time to
Okay.
give it. But the website for me was such an example of shining my light. Because then I was like, I'm really putting this out there. I mean, because I've been doing this for 5 years, and the first time I put it
Yep.
out there, I wanted it to be perfect. And so it just was iteration after iteration, reading, and finally I hit publish, and there was a typo. You know how you just miss it? And I was like, oh, and no one, I'm sure, probably even went to the website yet.
Right.
And like a couple people who I had, proof it, and they missed the typo too. But it was just that, oh, it's not perfect. And then I just
Yeah.
remember going, who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? Doesn't it
That's
show
so
that I'm
good.
imperfect? And
Yes.
we're more relatable than having everything just so,
Yes.
and so then I've just made changes over the years, and now it's to the point where I'm like, it's good enough.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to. What is perfect? Really? I mean, how can we even
Yeah.
define perfection? And so if perfection is keeping us from shining our light, serving others, helping, and which is really helping ourselves, we're just hiding in this dark corner, like this woman who grew up,
Yes.
and it's not a happy place to be. Her contrast she must have felt after her session
Oh,
with
it's
you was
huge.
like
Yeah.
I'd be curious to know if you check in with her, which I'm sure you probably
Yes.
will,
Yeah.
is when she went outside later that day, were the leaves greener? Was the
Mm.
sky a little bluer? Because
Yeah.
I've had that experience before where I've had like a really big layer peeled off. I remember one in particular during my equine training, and I can't even remember what the exercise was, but we did the exercise as a group, and then we took a walk out to the pasture, and it was a very slow, mindful walk. And I just remember looking around and being like, the world looks completely different. Everything is crisper, everything is brighter. The
Mm.
noise is like hearing the birds sing. So I'd be really curious,
Yeah.
like if she noticed anything different in the world around her as her inner landscape changed.
Yes.
So how did that
I'm
marry
sure
between?
I'm sure it will, and I'm sure it did, because it can't not happen, right? When you start to heal the stuff from within, the
Mm-hmm.
darkness, right? So that's what we're
Right.
talking about, shining
Yeah.
light. So what's the opposite is the darkness or our
Right.
shadow.
Right.
When we really start to look at our shadows and start to heal them,
Mm-hmm.
then you can't help to have the light shine on everything and magnify
Exactly.
everything so that you can see the trees better and you can see the flowers and you do notice the water,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's just a
Right.
natural effect of that.
Right. And I think, piggyback on that, we're not taking away the darkness, we're
No.
integrating the darkness. And when you
Yes.
said that, it made me wonder, did things look crisper? Because I could see the darkness and the light in the external world as well. Like was the darkness and the light being dimmed externally? And so now it was crisper because there's a greater contrast because it's integrated on inside of
Mm,
me, because I've integrated and become more authentic with my inner shadows, my inner darkness. And so
yes.
then the light can shine out because I've accepted that. I've accepted,
Mm,
for her, she's accepted that she was obedient and compliant because that was her
yes.
way to survive. And so
Yes.
that's a beautiful thing to say, thank you. Now you can stay with me because you helped me
Yes.
become who I am right now in this moment. And so then externally, we see the same. I mean, because it's right. What we see is a mirror of our inside anyway.
Yes, exactly. No, and that's so interesting that you brought that point up because that was something that at the end of the session that she actually felt like I need to, and she brought it to my attention. She's like, I feel like before we're done, I need to integrate this part of me.
Good for her.
Right. And so
Right.
we ended up, doing an exercise or using a tool to integrate, because what is the
Mm-hmm.
shadow anyway? What is this that she's talking about integrating? What is this part that she's healing?
Yeah.
And this goes back to the inner child, because
Right.
that's what it is. It's the child, the inner child.
Literally her child,
It
herself as a child.
it was
Yeah.
literally like her 4-year-old self, her 10-year-old self, all those selves that were,
Yep.
you know, blocking her and limiting her from being her
Mm-hmm.
authentic true self, shining her light. So that's what she had to integrate, heal her inner child, heal her little girl. And we did all of that in the session.
Wow. What
You
an
know,
amazing session.
oh, it was awesome. I mean, I have chills on it. It was just so powerful to witness her go through that healing and that transformation, to see her in the beginning. Literally, she was an adult in an adult body, but I could see her 4-year-old self. I could
Mm-hmm.
feel her 10-year-old self. And then just to watch the transformation of how at the end she felt so free. That's what we did at the end. She was like standing on stage, standing on the mountaintops, just proclaiming that I'm
Wow.
free, just shining so bright. And that's the power in doing this inner work. We talk about inner work all the time, you
Right.
and I, and
Right.
how powerful it is, because that's all it is that's holding us back. It's our inner child.
Right. We are holding ourselves back. I mean, society, and
Exactly.
so don't, and it's been piled on by other stuff, but
Yes.
ultimately it's our choice. Do I choose to shine? And then
Yes.
we have to remember too, like, so she's going to go out, just like we've done this work and everyone else on the
Yeah.
path. And it doesn't mean you go from 0 to 100 watts,
No.
so she's turning the dial up. We're turning that dial
Yes.
up because I still have lots of work to do around this.
So do I completely.
But as she turns up her dial and shines a little brighter, she's
Yeah.
also giving permission to someone else to shine a little brighter because she can meet
Yes.
them because she's in full acceptance now where she's at. So it's like, I'm shining, join me. It's like
Yes.
when we shine, we give others an invitation to shine as well. Could you
Yes.
imagine if the world was shining right now?
Oh my goodness. It would be incredible.
I mean, there is lots of shining,
There is lots of shining.
lots
Yeah.
and lots, but imagine that the darkness that's surrounding all of us, with everything in the world in
Yes.
2020. I mean, we record several weeks ahead of time, but like the
Yep.
hurricane just hit, it's just another
Right.
layer on the external world to remind us.
Yes.
But in that center of the hurricane, I've never been in a hurricane, so I'm not speaking from experience, but
Right. Neither have I.
but the eye of the hurricane, there's light. So it's the storm all around and that
Mm.
hurricane in the very middle, it's still and it's bright and the sun is shining through. So
Nature is so amazing.
talk about an integration of dark storminess and light and the destruction it makes, but then there's going to be
Yeah.
beauty after too, because people come
Yes.
together to support and help each other. And all of that. So if we can remember, no
Right.
matter how dark it is, there is light. Always.
Right. And that's when you talk about the yin and the yang. That's
Yeah.
your logo, right? You
Right.
have to have the light with the dark, and they go hand in hand together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I know.
Whew.
So it was powerful. It was really, really good.
It's amazing. I love that you shared a case study, or
I
not case
know.
study, but you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, just a real
respecting
example.
privacy and all that.
Yes,
But yeah,
exactly. Just
because,
to show how it works. And
yeah,
I like what you brought up too, just to reiterate that it is incremental.
yeah.
Like you said, just turning up the dial. That's a really good way of thinking about it. Even for me, my path, my journey, it's been incremental.
Yep.
You know,
And yeah. And you may have a day where you're just like shining like the sun.
yes,
And then the
yes,
next day it's like, oh, that was exhausting.
yes, exactly.
I'm having a shining like the sun hangover. I need to just kind
Hangover.
of hide
Yeah.
under the covers for a little bit.
Yeah, because it's all energy. So
Exactly.
it can feel really good, but it can also be depleting too
Yep.
sometimes. Yeah,
But
as well.
less so, I'm finding it's less depleting because it's more natural
Yes.
as we shine more and more and turn up that dial, versus when we've been in the dark and we shine. Like, she very well may, and I'm sure you've prepared her, she may just be exhausted in integrating
Yes.
this,
Yes.
and know that, you just accessed a part of you that's always been there. It just
Yes.
hasn't had a chance to shine and be out. And now that it has, just notice that it took a lot of energy, and it's going to
Yes.
continue to take energy to nurture that part of you, because it's not our natural state anymore,
Right. Exactly.
even though it
And
is.
right. And not only that, but, it's an and to be
Mm-hmm.
aware that that part of yourself, so we can also call it like the ego as well,
Yep.
that protective self
Right.
may continue to call her,
Oh, it
or
will.
it will call her, and it will call me, and it
Yeah.
does. And
Yeah.
that's when you just take the moment to say, okay, let me pause,
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, I see you again. I feel you. I know you want to come back in.
Right.
And it might sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
and that it will, and that's
Yeah.
okay, but it's not going to last as long. It won't be there a lifetime.
Mm-mm.
Maybe it's there
Mm-mm.
a couple hours or a
Right.
day, that old behavior, that old
Mm-hmm.
pattern. I've shared so many times about the overeating, right?
Right.
That was very, very old stuff that I've
Yeah.
healed, and it's a pattern. And sometimes it creeps back in, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like before it was the story of my whole life.
Right.
All the time happening. Now it's like, okay, when it happens, as I've shared before, I'm like, what's going on? What's up
Right.
for me?
Right.
I pause and I
Exactly.
go in and I see what's going on, and I'm good.
And so now it's more, once you notice it, because it can sneak in, we don't notice it right away at first, right?
No,
So once
I
you
hardly
notice
do.
it, right? Because it's a pattern, right? And our ego is super smart.
Yes.
And especially as you turn your dial up more and more, it gets smarter and sneakier.
Yes.
But now you see it as an invitation to go, something's out of balance.
Yes.
Where do I need to heal? What do I need to deconstruct? So now, speaking for myself, I see it as an invitation. And a reminder to go, it's time to come back home. It's time to, return to
Yeah.
the lighthouse.
Yes. Yes. Return to the lighthouse.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get super excited now. Like when I have the opportunity, I'm like, yes, what do I get to, what challenge is this? What do I get to learn now? Whereas before, I used to dread that feeling. I
Because it
used to
felt like
hate it.
failure.
It felt like failure. I would wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh, you're still there. You're there,
Right.
But now I'm like, yes, okay, what's this feeling about?
Yeah.
What's going on? What's this
Mm-hmm.
pattern? What's this thought? What's this story I'm telling myself?
Yeah.
And, how can I heal? How can I grow and become
Exactly.
more my light, shine my light to create my own lighthouse on a stormy
Exactly.
night? I love
Yeah.
that quote. That's a really
Me
good
too.
one.
I like it too.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for listening. We're going to continue more of this conversation in our next episode and go a little bit deeper dive with it, but we just wanted to introduce the topic.
Exactly. We'll see you in the next episode.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye.